How you doing?
I'm well. I hope you are too. 34-20 win at Elon, a place that's been tough for you guys in the past. And uh, just give me your impressions on what you're able to do well to get a win down there.
Well, I felt like, we played really, really well. I mean, throughout the game, and I think, you know, the the whole start to finish piece was very impressive to me. I mean, I thought offensively we did what we needed to do. We had a couple of monstrous drives that took a lot of time off the clock. As always, I was, pleased with some of the production and the stellar performances by a couple of people. Dev, made a couple incredible plays, and there were some other guys that contributed as well. But as always, you look at the negatives. You look at the things that need to be improved. We gave up a punt return for a touchdown, which was inexcusable. Really poor on our part, and then we had a series right before the half that we felt like we kind of botched up a little bit, had a penalty on special teams, took a sack on third down, backed up, bad punt, and ended up giving up seven. But listen, we couldn't be happier than we can be. You get on the road, in a CAA game and be able to come away with a victory is always special and has put us in a unique position going forward with a, really monstrous game ahead of us up at Maine this week.
Question for you this morning from Steve. Good morning, Steve.
Morning, Rob. Morning, Coach. Coach, you talked about those extended drives, third down conversions, 7 of 13. Some of them, third and 8, third and 9. And you were able to convert and keep those drives going. Just talk about third downs.
Yeah, listen, I pulled out some clips off the game and showed them to the team this morning. And, a lot of times it's going back looking at some of the negatives, but this was about the positives. And, I showed one clip of the offensive line plus Brendan Barrow in the backfield right now, picking up a pressure and working feet and really, really, really solid pass protection. And you saw a pocket that wasn't huge, but, you see Dev, who I think has great courage in the pocket and delivered a big strike to Connor Finer over the middle. That was early in the game, big third down, like you're talking about. There's a number of those things out there, whether they were, they're protected perfectly or Dev does something, something ridiculous. I mean, he did a couple of Houdini plays, danced around. I'm going, no, 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 no. And then yes, 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 particularly on the one he dumped off to Gaines for about a 30, 40 yard gain. So, there was great production on both sides of the ball on third down, and I think that's an emphasis for our program, and I was pleased we were able to execute well.
And if I could follow up, that pass protection, especially in the first half, was great for Devin. He had all day long to find a receiver. You can only guard guys like Buchanan and Gaines for so long. But also in the run game as well, outside of the sacks, there were no negative plays in the rushing game. So that offensive line, not only pass protecting, but opening up some holes for you.
There were some really, really nice holes, and I thought really nice play calls. I think you saw a little change up on that sprint draw look that he gave to Barrow, and that thing came really close to going the distance if we just stuck on our blocks downfield a little bit longer. But it's really a representative of our football team, in terms of when you start off and you see Antoine Littleton banging up in there, that's not a fun day at the office defensively, because it continues to come at you. But there's holes there and there's strong finishes and I think we've got some dynamic kids carrying it. So it really feels that we're hitting a little bit of a stride here, which is the right time to do it. Knock on wood, obviously, we got to prepare well and we've got to play well each and every week. But the run game is something we took great pride in, and I thought that coming off the goal line, the first drive of the game, I mean, that was a 93-yarder. I thought that was outstanding. And then there was one in the second half that chewed up some clock, a lot of clock, and ended up, I can't remember if we scored or not, but it was a very impressive drive. And watching the ball being moved by running it is something that gives you great comfort.
And one more, if I could, Rob. Our Garth White just continues to impress. A 52-yarder this week, 54 the week before. And the games prior to that, 45, 48. He's a real weapon for you.
It's a weapon, and it really changes your dynamic. It's a little bit uncharted. I've been here 12 years, and not had really that opportunity to manage that component of it. When you can get yourself to the, a certain yard line and feel confident in giving the kid a shot. He told me yesterday that, or Saturday, that, 35 was his number. And I said, okay, we get to the 35, we'll give you a run at it. But he's been really clutch for us, and we're going to need to have it going down the road. But it does open up an absolutely different dynamic when you can sit there and look at how important those 3 points were at the times of the game. It took it from a two-score game to a three-score game, I think, maybe once. I know once, maybe twice.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks, Rod.
Jim, how about just kind of building on that? Elon twice, they get the touchdown right before the half and get it down to 10, and then the punt return gets it back down to 10. And both times coming out of the second half where you got the field goal and then the long drive you touched on, your team responded and never let them get in within one. How big was that?
It's huge. Responding is everything you talk about. You're always disappointed when there's a score, but when you have an offense that has the ability to answer that score, it keeps things a little bit more comfortable, and we've been able to do that throughout the season. Certainly, you'd prefer to be able to hold on to those leads and not give up, some of the things that we did, but other people practice, and that's a good football team, Elon. They did a nice job managing that game at the end of the half, going all the way down and coming up with a score. And then obviously, for us to be able to answer those things are critically important. And as we talked just a second ago, when you have a field goal kicker that you can at least get 3 points and extend it to maybe not as much as you want to, but it makes it a three-score game. It's a different way you can manage the finish on both sides of the ball.
You mentioned how good Elon is on offense. Your defense held him to 225 yards. I think he had 4 sacks in the game. What were they able to do so well, especially to contain Elon's running game?
But, there was a couple of really things that we worked extremely hard on all off week. Our emphasis, was a lot on leverage and tackling and some of the fundamental things. And as we met with the staff, it was interesting. We all felt by each position that the things that we had emphasized during the course of that off week came through, in the game. And it was kind of telltale. It was, when you sit there and you look at just a back-to-back component, Dev, was on a zone read, pulled the ball and had a one-on-one with one of their defensive ends. And, Dev was able to shake him free and get in for a touchdown. And then the next time, Elon came out with speed option, and the quarterback was sitting there out there, and he was one-on-one with Ayende Johnson. He made the tackle, so those things showed up. I think it was just, I think we played fundamentally, and I think that we kept the ball in front of us for the most part. There was 2 explosions out of there in the past game that we weren't too happy about, but we swarmed, and I think we played probably our most physical game. There was a couple of very violent collisions, which is something you like to see, and we played fresh. We played fresh as you would expect coming off a bye week. It was a really good performance by our group. I was very proud of how they prepared and how they played.
Got a follow-up from Steve.
Thanks, Rob. Coach, I know in the course of preparing to win games, you like to sometimes give your other guys a chance. Alex McClellan able to run one in for you.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of our package. That wasn't just one of those things. Hey, let's give the young kid something. I mean, he's a dynamic guy running the football. We all knew what his prowess was coming out of high school, out of Barrington High School. He was an option runner, and he's a big physical kid. And so, Flan and the boys, put together a little package for him. He can still throw it, which is a concern, that the other teams have to worry about. But, when you're able to go ahead and get a student body left with a quarterback running it, you get an extra blocker out there. And I was so happy to see Mac be able to get that in. He had a great touchdown, and maybe the worst touchdown celebration in the history of man.
I know it's only been a couple of days since Elon, but an early look at Maine and the challenges they present.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a team that's on fire right now. Anytime you're able to get 6 in a row, there's obviously belief and there's good execution that goes alongside with that. You look at scoring defense, you're talking about 1 and 2 in the league squaring off, so they are on offense, they run the ball extremely well. Their quarterback has been able to go ahead and throw the intermediate game very well and has the explosive ability. I like their running backs, and their offensive line is active and keeps moving. Tight ends are solid dudes, and they've got a couple of threats out wide like everybody, but on defense, they're very impressive. I like their down four, particularly interior guys. They've got some girth to them. They've got some quickness, good sized linebackers, and their secondary is very active and very aggressive. There's been some real good contact that I've seen as we've been studying them a little bit. And then special teams, they're a threat. They've got a punt return back for a touchdown. They do a good job in all the return games. So we've got our work cut out for us, and we've got to make sure that we're prepared and ready to go up to Orono. That's a 5 hour bus ride, and I always say you're on the road at 7 points down. When you go to Orono, it feels like you're 14. So we got to make sure that we're ready to come off the bus, ready to play, because we'll have a motivated team up there that's it's in the hunt for a championship, truthfully. And so it is it's very significant. We're going to have to play extremely well, and I know it's going to be a battle.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks, Rob.
All right, Jim, thanks so much.